Hey everyone, watching in today's second video, we're going to have a look at ENSO for today's second video. See what's going on in the El Nino region in the central part of the equatorial Pacific. I did the video on this at the start of the year, and at that point it looked as though the weak, sort of borderline neutral to weak El Nino conditions that we have through the winter, it looked like those conditions were going to go on through the rest of the year. So that was the forecast at the start of the year. Things have developed a little bit, and some of the models, particularly the CFS really starting to go to town now on the chance of a very strong El Nino event later on this year. We'll have a look at all the charts on that in a moment, but before I get on with that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all the pages at gasweather.com. Have a browse with widgets. Any articles interested in, please click through. You'll be able to go for read those articles, and thanks so much for doing that. There's also video ads on those pages. They open out in content. When you watch them, they'll close back up again. And just by doing that, you don't even have to click away from the website. Just by watching the video ad, you'll be helping to pay the website. Thanks so much for doing that. It's quite short, so you won't be sitting around for too long. Today's first video this summer, the second summer update. So that's on the homepage. Do check that out if you want to know what could be happening for the summer. This is going to be quite a long video, so get a cup of chai, cup of tea, some biscuit. It's going to be here for some time. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you find it interesting and informative. Right, just a quick say what El Nino is, for anybody that's watching this for the very first time, is this very vibrant area of red just here in the equatorial part of the Pacific. This is the El Nino event from 97-98. This is from NOAA, this sea surface temperature anomaly chart, NOAA in the United States. You can find the link to these charts on the links page. This is from the 12th, this is from December the 8th, 1997. They always have the date a little bit the other way round compared to how we do it, don't they, in America? So it's December the 8th, 1997. And that big red area in the central part of the equatorial Pacific is El Nino. It's a very strong El Nino event, the event of 97-98, its last sort of super Nino, as they call them now. It had major impacts for the whole of the globe, really. It is a southern hemisphere phenomena in particular, El Nino, and also its brother, La Nina, which is the reverse, it's cold water coming up. It's a southern hemisphere phenomena in particular, but when these events get this strong, it does have impacts for the whole of the world. I've not got time, unfortunately, to go into what those impacts are, but it just depends on the strength of the El Nino and where it's positioned in particular. This was very much an eastern-based El Nino off the coast of Peru. So it's warm water rising up to the surface through the equatorial Pacific from Peru to Indonesia. Basically, that is what El Nino is. And this is the latest sea surface temperature anomaly chart from NOAA. This was generated on the 23rd of April, so it's bang up to date. It's much easier to view this map, fortunately. So again, we've got Peru just here and Indonesia over here. And here's the warm water that I've got through the central part of the equatorial Pacific, stretched out from east over to the west. Now, it's not as strong, it's nothing like as strong as we was just looking at. It's not like as strong an event as we just looking at from 97-98. Nevertheless, it is a warming along the equatorial Pacific, and it does reach just about the El Nino threshold. It's very much on a par with what we've had through the winter, really. And this is what I was predicting at the start of the year. These kind of conditions I'm predicting to continue through the remainder of 2015. I said there's no sign of a La Nina, and indeed there is no sign of a La Nina. Definitely not. We've got no real cold water down here. And this is the first place you'll tend to start to look for cold water when you're going to get a La Nina, when this coast off when the seas off the coast of Chile go very, very cold, then you can start thinking about a La Nina. But there's nothing there at the moment. So we definitely, I'm sure we're not going to be going to a La Nina this year. But I was expecting these sort of weak El Nino conditions to continue through this year. The models, though, are beginning begin to go to town a little bit on it. Have a look at the sea surface temperature anomaly from the start of the month, and you can see that, again, that's the region we're interested in. You can see that there has been a warming through this month. There has been some warming through the equatorial Pacific, and that's quite unusual, actually. At this time of year, coming off a La Nina, albeit a weak one, you would tend to be thinking of the sea surface temperature anomaly sort of moderated, going back towards neutral. That's what they tend to do when you come out of an El Nino winter. Not so. So maybe you have got to start thinking about a bit of an event starting to take place. Have a look at the Southern Oscillation index. Now, the Southern Oscillation is really reflecting the state of the atmosphere in the Southern Hemisphere, or particularly in the Pacific part of the Southern Hemisphere. Looks at Australia and a few other places as well. I think it's Tahiti, the other place. Looks at the pressures there and then creates an index. Like all weather-related indexes, so like the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation, this isn't driving anything. It's sort of reflecting the state of the atmosphere. Now, when the SOI, the Southern Oscillation Index, goes very negative, then we're into an El Nino. When it goes positive, we're into a La Nina. So that we can see here with these numbers, we are generally negative with these numbers. Here's the months just here. So through the winter, for instance, December came out at minus 5.5, January minus 7.8. Ever so slightly positive in February. So that was our sort of very weak El Nino winter that we had last winter. In March, we go very negative, down to minus 11.2. That's partly, I think, responsible for the warming that we've seen through the equatorial Pacific this month. The fact that the SOI went so negative in March. And that's probably what the model, particularly with CFS V2, is starting to sort of cotton on to in terms of trying to strengthen this El Nino into a big event later this year. Now, interestingly, you remember that the SOI did go very negative last spring. So here we are in March 2014. I'll just highlight that. And we went down to minus 13.3, more negative in March 2014 than we was in March 2015. So I think that's what the model's cotton on to, that the SOI is going so negative in March. And the same thing happened with the CFS V2 last year. After that very negative March with the Southern Oscillation Index, the CFS V2 really went for a big El Nino event last year, and then it sort of backed away from it. And I think that's what it's sort of doing again this year. So it's not to say that it's not right. So this is the CFS V2 forecast for the ENSO region for this year. This is going up to January 2016, just over here. And this is where we're starting from in April, just into those weak El Nino conditions. This is the temperature scale up here, so around 1 Celsius above average in the equatorial part of the Pacific. This is particularly the central part of the equatorial Pacific region, 3.4. So that's where we're starting from, and you can see that the model is really trying to ramp things up. But that's a very alarming looking chart, to be honest, on face value. That really is very dramatic indeed. It's going up, well, around the end of the year. This will be December just here. Around there, it's going up to around 2.5 degrees above average. That is on a par with the 97, 98 El Nino. So that is a proper Super Nino that the CFS V2 is predicting there. Of course, it's not alarming if you like dramatic things going on with the climate and with the weather, but if you're down in the southern hemisphere, you're in Australia or Peru or Indonesia, that is a very alarming looking forecast that the CFS V2 is generating. But as I say, it did do the same last year. Now, not to the same extent, but this was a forecast it was churning out for the region, 3.4 area of the ENSO region this time last year. This is from April 2014. And you can see up to this point, it was by the end of the year, this is January 2015 just here, by the end of the year, it was trying to lift things up towards 2 Celsius above average. So it wasn't going quite as dramatically warm as it wants to this year with the ENSO event. Nevertheless, it really was trying to push things up to around 2 degrees, which is a big El Nino event in its own right. And of course, we know what actually happened is that for the winter, when it was trying to go up here, what we actually got was an El Nino event somewhere in that sort of zone just there. So it was going much further to town with the El Nino event than we actually got. We can go back to the most current chart, this one, and see for the winter where we was, and it was just here. Yeah, it definitely overdid it in terms of its forecast. That's where we was through the winter, and this around here is where it wanted us to be at this point last year. So you can see they did significantly overestimate the strength of the El Nino. Nevertheless, that's not to say the model isn't right this time. Just because it's wrong last time doesn't mean to say it isn't right this time. The ECMWF, interestingly, is also starting to play around with quite a big El Nino event. This is the latest forecast for the 3.4 region from the ECMWF model. Temperature scale is going up here. You see there's no, just here, you see there's no chance of a La Nina. The lowest the scale goes down to is average, is neutral, 0 degrees. So we're definitely going to be in some sort of warm event through the rest of this year. And you see that by the time you get through towards the autumn, these are the autumn months just here, September, October, November, into December. By the time we get to that point, many members of the ensemble plume are sort of in this zone, which is around 1.5 to 2.5 degrees above average. So, well, it is supporting the CFS V2 somewhat. I'm not sure it goes quite as far as the CFS V2 does, but it's in the sort of same ballpark of trying to get this going into a big El Nino event. So again, this is probably picking up on the Southern Oscillation Index going very negative in March, and we've just got to wait and see whether that's just a one-off or whether we're going to get some significantly negative SOI months in the coming few months. If we do, then it could all start to hook up and produce this big El Nino event, quite possibly. The Jamstack IOD, which is a model I rate very highly, that's not going for it. It keeps things more or less where we are right now. Just got the scale of the screen a little bit wrong, so I'll just fiddle around with that ever so slightly. Okay, there we go. And you can see that where we've been is the blue line. So this area just here is the sort of weak El Nino conditions that we've had through the winter and into the start of the spring. This red line is where the model is forecasting things to go. This is the temperature scale, and you see that it never really gets above 1 Celsius. We just sort of drift through somewhere around 1 degree, around where we are now, above average. So the Jamstack not going for this Super Nino at all. There's the months just there. That's January 2016. Even at that point, the ensemble mean, which is the red line here, just continues to hover around where we are now. And that was what I was predicting at the start of the year. At that point, it wasn't only the Jamstack, it was all the models sort of wanting to just keep things in weak to borderline neutral to weak El Nino conditions. It wanted to keep things in that sort of ballpark, and the CFS V2, I mean, ECMWF sort of backed it up. They've excuse me, they've gone to town on this El Nino event over the past month. The Jamstack not going for it, but if it's just CFS V2, then I would probably write off the chances, really. That does tend to overdo things. The ECMWF, though, is interesting because that is really pushing things up as well. I don't think it goes to quite the same level as CFS V2, but it does really increase things from the summer and through into the autumn, at least up to around 1.5 degrees above average, if not going up towards 2 degrees above average. So let's just wait and see where this goes. We're at the spring predictability barrier at the moment, which means that the models always struggle to see where the ENSO region is going to go through the middle and latter part of the year. So I think we're going to get out of April and May, get into June and July, and we'll have a much clearer idea about where this is going. It probably is going to play out like it did last year. That's my call, that in the end the ECMWF and CFS V2 will back off the El Nino, and will just sort of have, may go up to moderate perhaps, but no more than that. That's my suspicion of where we're going. But I just want to wait a month or two to see before I'm really confident that that's what's going to happen. And particularly keep an eye on the Jams Tech next month, see if that starts to push things up in terms of this El Nino event. But it's all very interesting. It does impact the global weather system. It does have impacts for the winter here of 2015-2016. If we get a really big event, then whatever else is going on, we're going to struggle to get a cold winter in a very strong El Nino event. So excuse me, it is important to see where this is going, and of course I'll do more updates over the next few weeks and months. That's it. I hope you found it interesting, and keep checking back for more, both here and on the blog as well, when I do some written posts about all of this. But that's all for now, and thank you very much for watching the video. Bye for now.